All right, we are in Nashville, Tennessee. It is our preview of Commodity Classic. Gets underway tomorrow. Our preview show today brought to you by AGROTAIN, a product of Koch Agronomic Services. And we have with us a couple of gentlemen to talk about AGROTAIN. And we are going to talk with Greg Schwab, Director of Agronomy for Koch Agronomic Services, and Martin Case, Regional Manager for Koch Agronomic Services. So a lot to talk about. And, you know, it's here, really. I drove down through from central Illinois down through the southern part of the state on my way here to Tennessee. Saw some guys out working in the fields already. Some anhydrous going on. I mean, things are starting to happen. It's been an extremely mild winter. Still don't know what's going to happen, how this spring will play out, but it's time to be thinking about these things and how to, you know, we just talked about it with Bob Hazelwood. Great demand out there, tight supplies. We're talking about a critical planting season and growing season coming up. And Greg, let's start with you. Kind of the latest research that we have available on soil fertility and management programs that are so critical to maximize farmers' yield.
Right. So the most recent research data shows that really the importance of that weather-nitrogen interaction. And so Dr. Fred Below at the University of Illinois has been looking at trying to pursue that 300 bushel kind of gold standard of yield. And what he's found is that weather-nitrogen interaction determines a huge amount of your yield potential in most of our cropping systems. And so how that weather interacts with the loss factors for nitrogen is a big deal.
Always hard to outguess Mother Nature what kind of spring it's going to be, but you have to prepare. The use of AGROTAIN really gives a farmer some assurances.
That's exactly right. So when you have high amounts of losses, if you have wet soil conditions and you're doing a broadcast application of urea, then volatilization is a huge concern. And so if you use AGROTAIN nitrogen stabilizer with that urea, then you buy yourself quite a bit of insurance. So losses can be as high as 30%. And so with AGROTAIN treated urea, losses are around the 4 or 5% range if there are losses.
Bring in Martin Case, Regional Manager for Koch Agronomic Services. And Martin, it's always a race in the spring, depending on the weather, more some years than others, but still timeliness, the speed of application, those are all key.
Yeah, and that's, with the weather variability, that becomes a big, huge factor. And so that's why using AGROTAIN technology, AGROTAIN Plus with your liquid nitrogen, AGROTAIN with urea and AGROTAIN and UAN has helped the farmers manage that whole logistics issue and spread out their workload, and just a major improvement in farming as far as nutrient management.
We're kind of talking here among ourselves, the need for speed. I mean, it really, once you start going, it's a race, and you're trying to hit certain windows to get things done.
You really are, and a lot of things have been going on in agriculture with some split applications, and we're finding with AGROTAIN treated urea in a side dress application that the dealers and the farmers alike can cover a huge amount more acres per day and on less fuel, so it's a huge time savings and a major improvement in their agronomy as far as getting improved yields and reaching that 300 bushel quest.
Greg, let's talk about the benefits of using urea.
Yeah, so urea is the worldwide, it's the most popular nitrogen source, and it's because it's a relatively cheap fertilizer to make. It's a high nitrogen content. It's easier to handle, obviously, than anhydrous. You can make broadcast applications, which means you can go through the field extremely fast, cover a lot of acres per day. So overall, it's a really good choice. The problem is, like any other fertilizer, there is drawbacks, and so the main drawback with urea is volatilization losses.
So how do they deal with that?
Yeah, AGROTAIN nitrogen stabilizer is the best way to deal with that for sure. That'll buy you about a 10-day window, hoping for rain to incorporate that urea. Another factor that we see often is farmers are transitioning to less and less tillage, and so the more residue you have on the surface, the higher the potential for loss. And so on those applications, for sure, you want to have AGROTAIN nitrogen stabilizer in with that urea.
I mentioned this earlier. Already we're starting to see some farmers earlier than usual be able to get out and do some work in the field. It's been such a mild winter. We don't know what's going to happen but here at the end of winter and going into spring, but we kind of know right now everything feels like it's way ahead of schedule. How does the use of urea and AGROTAIN products figure into that kind of a scenario?
Well, that's definitely a worry. So what happens is when you put on nitrogen fertilizer, whether it's anhydrous or urea, this time of the year, that nitrogen converts to nitrate, and the nitrate form is susceptible to loss. And so you have to worry about applying it this early, having a lot of nitrate, and then having rain later in the spring, and that could cause a lot of nitrogen loss. And so AGROTAIN Plus has a secondary inhibitor. It's called DCD, and that AGROTAIN Plus prevents the conversion or reduces the conversion of ammonium to nitrate, and that helps to prevent some of those early season losses.
We know commodity prices have been up, but so have farmers' costs, input costs. So they're certainly concerned about that. They don't want to lose what they're putting out there. Maximizing, all their inputs. That's key to the profitability of farmers.
Right. Efficiency should be everybody's goal. So any nitrogen that's invested should be used by that plant. Nobody wants to see nitrogen that they made a significant investment in go anywhere other than the plant.
Martin, what are you hearing for farmers? Are you getting across the advantages, the benefits of urea, getting past the questions they may have, and what AGROTAIN products bring to the table as far as giving them those assurances?
Well, we're getting a lot of switch in the Midwest to what I call nitrogen management as a system rather than a pure application. So the guys are bringing in, our technology, the AGROTAIN technology in their systems approach to managing agriculture with their fall ammonia. Then there's some spring UAN with AGROTAIN Plus, and then some side dress urea with AGROTAIN is really widening out their window and help feeding these new hybrids that are so magical, if you will.
Is it a change in mindset? They haven't used urea in the past, so you've got to get them to kind of at least be open to the idea?
Yeah, the Midwest, a lot of the Midwest here in the Corn Belt has not used a lot of urea in the last few years, but they're getting rapidly switched back to using some urea as part of their system, and so they're finding ways to really implement this and increase their yields.
Do you now have enough field examples, actual results to show them that should help, I would think?
Yeah, we're seeing this being tested by many fertilizer dealers with their farmers, putting on-farm demonstration plots out there and checking to see just what this technology will do and allow them to do. And they're seeing significant advantages from, 10 to 40 bushel advantages per acre sometimes, depending upon Mother Nature, of course.
All right, from an agronomic standpoint, Greg, why is that the case?
Well, it's the case because you're preserving that nitrogen investment. And so in terms of university researchers, Koch Agronomic Services is currently working with about 25 of the land-grant universities for research, and we're trying to really understand when it is the best investment for the farmer and trying to manage that nitrogen as efficiently as possible.
You referred earlier to Dr. Fred Below and his 7 Wonders of Corn research. We've talked about this in the past. It really shows the potential that is out there, and heretofore untapped potential really for potential corn yield.
Yeah, that's extremely correct. So the thing that Fred is really demonstrating is that everything plays on each other. So, you have to have good weather, you have to have good nitrogen management, you have to select the right variety, you have to have the right population, weed control, all of those things compound together to make that 300 bushel goal a reality. And so that's kind of the amazing thing. If you skip one of the steps in the process, then likely you're going to have a hugely detrimental effect on the yield.
It does take a lot of things coming together, so you have to look at each of those pieces, and urea with AGROTAIN products, that's a big part of the puzzle of getting to that 300 bushel.
Right. So what Fred is actually using in his trials, though, is a product called Super U, and it's a product we manufacture as well, and it has 2 inhibitors. It has the urease inhibitor like our AGROTAIN products, but it also has a nitrification inhibitor that slows the conversion from ammonium to nitrate, and it prevents those or helps reduce those nitrate losses.
So that's what a farmer should be looking at. Here are new tools are available to me now as I try to increase those yields.
Understand the losses that your specific fields have. Some fields, denitrification where they get waterlogged and they lose a lot of nitrogen that way. Some fields that's the problem. Some fields leaching is the problem. Other fields are well drained, and the only problem is surface applications of urea.
So one size doesn't fit all. You have to be able to adapt to each field.
Yeah, it's just like your variety selection. So, you would never go out and select the same variety for all of your fields. Probably shouldn't manage your nitrogen the same either for all of your fields.
That's a good point. All right, we are here in Nashville, Tennessee, getting ready for Commodity Classic that gets underway tomorrow, of course, where corn, soybean, wheat, and sorghum growers come together. They're expecting over 5,000. This is our preview show, getting ready for the big meeting going on here at the Opryland Hotel. And our preview show today brought to you by AGROTAIN, a product of Koch Agronomic Services. No doubt this is a critical growing season ahead. The need is there for some good crops. Could we get to 300 bushel corn? We're learning more about how to get there from the folks at Koch Agronomic Services. We'll take a break, come back with more with Greg Schwab and Martin Case. Stay with us. From Nashville, this is AgriTalk.